The stars burned red with fire. On the Thero colony of Acrothes, children screamed beneath a sky split by warships. The Zerth Collective's cruisers descended like carrion beasts, their hulls casting shadows across a dying city. Plasma bombardments reduced towers to molten rivers. The air carried the metallic stench of blood and burning stone. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Elias Kane stood motionless before a massive holoscreen in Earth's high command. The live feed came from a Thero relay before its transmission cut in static. He watched until his screen dissolved to black. Fists clenched until his knuckles ached. No one in the chamber spoke. Ministers of the Terran Council shifted uncomfortably in their seats, each waiting for someone else to break the silence. Finally, Counselor Joran cleared his throat. "It is not our war," he said. His voice was steady, but Kane saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. Kane turned slowly. "Not our war." His voice was low, almost calm, but every syllable carried iron. "You just watch children burned alive." Joran spread his hands. "The Accord has not sanctioned intervention. If we act unilaterally, we risk drawing the full fury of the Zerth onto humanity. Billions of our own will pay." The room hummed with muted agreement. Fear, Kane thought. That was all he heard. Calculations of survival, risk, numbers on a ledger. None of it touched the reality he had just seen. He leaned forward across the table. "Do you know why the Thero asked us first, before they begged the Accord? Because centuries ago, when a human exploration fleet drifted powerless beyond the Helios Rift, it was the Thero who came. They gave food, water, and fuel. They saved thousands of our ancestors. They asked for nothing in return." That was 300 years ago, another counselor said sharply. "Ancient history, irrelevant to our survival today." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Then you have forgotten." "I haven't." The council chamber grew colder. Memories surged. His grandfather telling him stories of that rescue, how the survivors carved a single line into the walls of the first orbital academy. "We will remember." Every cadet, every officer had walked past those words. To break that vow now would shatter the spine of what it meant to be human. A new voice cut in. Counselor Lyra, younger than most, spoke softly but firmly. "Admiral, even if you are right, humanity is not ready for a war of this scale. Our fleets are still recovering. The Accord will brand us reckless." "Perhaps," Kane admitted. He straightened, shoulders squared. "But I ask you, what are we, if not a people who keep our word? The Zerth will not stop with the Thero. They never stopped. If we abandon those who once saved us, then what hope will anyone have that humanity's word means anything at all?" The debate raged for an hour, voices clashing with anger, fear, and caution. But nothing changed. The council voted. No military action. No deployments. Humanity would remain neutral. Kane stood while the ministers filed out, their faces tight with relief that the burden of decision had been lifted from their shoulders. He remained alone in the echoing chamber until the doors hissed shut. He whispered into the emptiness. "We will remember." The command deck of the dreadnought Resolute was alive with quiet efficiency when Kane returned. Crew snapped to attention as he entered, but he waved them back to their stations. His executive officer, Commander Vera Holt, waited at the center console. "They voted against intervention," Holt said flatly. "They did," Kane replied. "Then that's it? We do nothing." Her eyes searched his face. He looked out the viewport where Earth's orbital ring glittered with the silhouettes of half-finished warships. "Tell me, Commander, when the Thero pulled our people from the rift, did they ask permission from the Accord? Did they weigh cost against survival?" Holt's lips pressed into a hard line. She said nothing, but her silence was an answer. Kane turned back to her, voice steady, each word deliberate. "Signal the fleet. Quietly. We mobilize within 48 hours. No fanfare, no broadcasts. We move for the Thero." Holt hesitated, only a heartbeat. Then she nodded. "Aye, Admiral." That night, Kane walked the shipyards alone. The skeletal frames of carriers loomed overhead, sparks showering down as engineers welded plating into place. Workers labored without pause, grim-faced, aware of whispers spreading through the stations. Something stirred in humanity's blood, an old, stubborn refusal to stand idle. He stopped at a viewing deck. Beyond the glass stretched Earth, cloud-wrapped and serene. Home. Safe for now. He pressed a hand against the glass, feeling the weight of what he was about to risk. He remembered faces from past wars, soldiers who had trusted him, men and women who never came home. Their absence still haunted his nights. Now he would ask for more sacrifice, for a war humanity could lose. But he saw again the feral children screaming under a burning sky, and doubt hardened into resolve. Some debts could never be ignored. 2 days later, the first fleet gathered in high orbit. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, and escorts aligned in silent formation, engines glowing faintly against the void. No speeches, no declarations. Only a simple transmission from Kane to every ship. This is not about conquest. It is not about the Accord. This is about who we are. Long ago, the Pharaoh saved us. Now they call, and we answer. We remember. On every deck, in every crew cabin, men and women listened, and something unshakable passed between them. The fleet slipped into warp space, vanishing from Earth's skies. When the Terran Council discovered the mobilization, outrage exploded. But by then it was too late. Humanity had already crossed the line. The Council could condemn, the Accord could scorn, but the Terran fleet was gone, carrying its promise into fire. Kane stood on the Resolute's bridge as the stars bent around them, a cold calm settling over him. Ahead lay the Thero, the Zerth, and the weight of a vow made centuries ago. He closed his eyes, hearing the echo of his grandfather's voice. We will remember. His eyes opened again, hard as steel. Helm, he ordered. Take us into Thero space. All ships form the line. No one passes. The crew answered in unison, and the fleet surged forward into the unknown. The promise was alive. Humanity would not break it. The fleet rode silent through warp, stars stretching into ribbons of light across the bridge of the Resolute. Admiral Elias Kane stood at the command dais, watching the readouts. His officers worked in practice quiet, tension written across every movement. Every person aboard knew what they were doing was unsanctioned, perhaps even treasonous. But no one asked to turn back. Commander Vera Holt broke the silence. Admiral, all task groups confirm readiness. Weapons charged. Supply ships report enough rations and munitions for 3 months of sustained conflict. Kane nodded. 3 months will have to be enough. He studied the fleet display. 60 warships, formidable by human standards, but a fraction of what the Zerth could field. How are the crews? Focus, Holt said. Then quieter, uneasy. Some worry the Council may brand us criminals before the first shot is fired. Kane's jaw tightened. Let them. History won't remember what the Council feared. It will remember what we did. The first test came sooner than expected. Hours later, a secure channel flared open on the bridge. The seal of the Terran Council rotated in the air. Kane accepted the transmission. Counselor Joran's image appeared, his face hard with restrained fury. Admiral Kane, you will order your fleet to stand down immediately and return to Terran space. You act without authority. You endanger every man, woman, and child of our worlds. Kane stood tall, his expression unflinching. Counselor, with respect, the danger is not from us. It is from the Zerth. Every moment we hesitate, the Thero die. Do you suggest we watch and do nothing? Joran's nostrils flared. You defy direct command. I uphold a promise older than your office, Kane said. His voice was calm, but steel-edged each word. Centuries ago, the Thero saved us. Humanity vowed never to forget. I intend to keep that vow. You are condemning us all. Joran snapped. Kane's reply was measured, final. Better condemnation with honor than survival in shame. He cut the link. The bridge was quiet again. Holt exhaled slowly. You just declared war, Admiral. Kane's eyes stayed on stars. No, the Zerth already declared it. We're just answering. The Resolute's war room filled with senior officers as Kane called the first council of war. Hollow maps flickered to life, showing Thero space, dozens of scattered colonies, most already under assault. Red markers bled across the map, where Zerth fleets advanced. Captain Rourke, commander of the Aegis, scowled. We can't cover all of this. We'll be torn apart trying to defend every outpost. That's not the plan, Kane said. He tapped the core system, Thero Prime, the homeworld. We hold here. Everything else is secondary. If Prime falls, the Thero are finished. A younger officer, Lieutenant Saran, spoke hesitantly. And if the Zerth concentrate their fleets there, we'd be outnumbered 10-1. Then we fight 10-1, Kane said simply. A ripple of unease passed through the room. Holt watched the faces around the table, then cut in. The Admiral's right. The Thero don't need us everywhere. They need us where it matters. If we hold a heart, they survive. Rourke grunted, unconvinced but unwilling to argue further. Kane leaned over the display. We'll arrive at Prime in 12 hours. When we do, we form a line around the planet. Nothing passes. While the fleet moved, the whispers spread. Across crew decks, mess halls, and bunks, men and women spoke of the mission. Some cursed the council for cowardice. Others admitted they were afraid, but fear did not stop them. Saran visited Holt on the observation deck late that cycle. Stars drifted past in silence. You served with Kane longer than anyone, Saran said. Tell me straight, does he know what he's doing? Or are we all about to die for a story from 3 centuries ago? Holt studied the young officer, then the stars. Elias Kane has lost more comrades than you've ever met. He knows exactly what this war costs. And yes, we might die, but I'll tell you something. Lieutenant, when he says we remember, I believe him. That's enough for me. Saran fell silent. After a long moment, he nodded. On a neutral station orbiting the Veiled Dominion, diplomats watched with unease as human ships poured into Thero space. Ambassador Correa, a scale being with translucent skin, recorded a dispatch to the Accord High Assembly. The humans are moving without sanction. Entire fleets vanish from their shipyards. They act with Thero, a species of no military value. This behavior is unsettling. They risk annihilation not for themselves, but for others. If humanity shows such ferocity for debt, what might they do when driven by vengeance? The message raced across the network, igniting debates in every hall of power. Fear began to spread faster than the war itself. 12 hours later, the fleet exited warp at the edge of the Thero Prime system. The sight froze the bridge in silence. Before them, the planet glowed faint blue, ringed with orbital habitats, and beyond them, fire. Dozens of Zerth ships bombarded the outer colonies, their crimson beams searing against the void. Transports fled, some cut apart mid-flight. The Thero homeworld's defenses sputtered under relentless assault. Kane's voice cut through the silence. All ships form defensive line. Cover evacuation routes. Fire on anything with Zerth colors. Orders rippled across the fleet. Engines roared, weapons flared to life. Shields ignited in layered fields of blue and white. Human warships slid into formation like steel teeth snapping shut. The comms crackled as a Thero transmission broke through. The voice was trembling, desperate. Terrans, you came? Kane leaned toward the mic. We came. Stay behind our line. The bridge crew watched him, their unease hardening into something else. Resolve. The Zerth fleet turned, sensing the new arrival. Their ships reoriented like predators scenting prey. Crimson light glared across their hulls. Holt whispered, almost to herself, "Here begins." Kane's gaze never left the looming enemy. "Signal to all ships," he said. His voice was calm, unshakable. "Form the line. Hold until the last. Humanity remembers." The first enemy salvos streaked toward them. The storm had come. The void split into chaos the moment the first Zerth salvo struck. Crimson lances streaked across the black, slamming into human shields with thunderless fury. The Resolute's deck shuddered as its barrier absorbed the hit, dispersing energy in rippling blue arcs. Shields holding at 94%. Lieutenant Saran reported, his voice sharp but steady. "Return fire," Kane ordered. The Resolute's forward cannons roared, spitting beams of white-hot plasma. Across the line, human warships answered, unleashing torrents of rail slugs, missile spreads, and directed energy. The dark canvas of space lit up in streaks of fire, each ship's fury stitching together into a wall of defiance. Zer's ships swarmed in disciplined wedges, their designs alien yet methodical, sleek, scarlet hulls bristling with spines that pulse with lethal energy. They moved like predators, circling, probing for weakness. 2 Zerth cruisers breaking off, flanking right. Holt warned. Vector destroyers intercept. Kane said. His voice carried no panic, only iron focus. On the Vanguard, Captain Rourke grinned like a wolf at the hunt. Bring us about 180. Target their lead ship. The Vanguard's guns hammered, puncturing a Zerth cruiser's shields and a spray of molten fragments. A second salvo poured through its reactor. The enemy vessel convulsed, then exploded in a burst of crimson fire. The cheer that rose on the Vanguard's bridge was cut short by a retaliatory strike. A Zerth destroyer pierced through the chaos, tearing into the Vanguard's flank. Metal screamed, hull plating ripped away, atmosphere vented into space. Rourke staggered, bracing himself. Seal that breach. Redirect power to port shields. The battle gave no pause. On the Resolute, Kane's gaze locked on the tactical map. Red markers pressed the line at every point, probing, hammering. They're testing us, Holt muttered. They'll find we don't break, Kane replied. He keyed the fleet-wide channel. All ships, hold formation. Do not pursue. Our line is a shield. Remember why we're here. The channel buzzed with acknowledgments. Behind the human fleet, Thero transports streamed towards safety, their fragile hulls barely shielded. Every second the line held meant lives saved. A sudden spike in the readings froze Saran's hands mid-command. Admiral, new contacts. Zerth reinforcements, inbound from the outer rim. 15 ships, including a dreadnought. The bridge tensed. A dreadnought, 3 kilometers of armored fury, was more than a ship. It was an empire's fist. Holt's face hardened. That thing will crush us. Kane studied the readouts, silent for a moment. Then his decision came swift. Signal the Ironclad and Vanguard. They're to spear the dreadnought before it reaches our line. Admiral, those are our heaviest ships, Holt began. I know. His tone brooked no debate. If that monster breaks through, the line collapses. We meet it head-on. The Ironclad surged forward, its massive frame bristling with guns. Alongside it, the battered Vanguard limped but did not falter. Together they cut across the void, engines burning white. On the Vanguard, Rourke barked at his crew. You heard the Admiral. Let's show them what Terran steel can do. The Zerth dreadnought loomed ahead, a colossal shadow blotting the stars. Its hull shimmered with layered shields, weapons arrays glowing with contained fury. The duel began. The Ironclad's main cannon thundered, sending a lance of plasma across the void. The dreadnought's barrier flared, but held. In answer, its spinal beam erupted, a crimson side that tore across the Ironclad's bow, shearing through decks in molten fury. Forward batteries, continuous fire, roared the Ironclad's captain. The void became a crucible of fire and death. Back at the line, Kane watched as the clash unfolded. The dreadnought's firepower was staggering, each shot enough to vaporize a cruiser. Yet the Ironclad and Vanguard pressed on, each strike buying moments, each maneuver bleeding courage. Admiral, Saran said, voice low, they can't hold. Kane's gaze was unflinching. Then we make their sacrifice count. The Zerth pressed harder along the flanks. Smaller human ships were being chewed apart. A corvette screamed across the comms as it was split open, voices cut mid-transmission. Holt slammed her fist into the console. We're losing too many. Not as many as we save, Kane answered. He turned. Signal to all Thero transports. Evacuations are clear through Corridor 7. Push them through now while the line holds. On his screen, civilian ships flickered green as they passed the cordon, fleeing into warp. The fleet bled, but the Thero lived. A voice crackled across the fleet channel, broken but defiant. Rourke, Admiral, the Vanguard is burning, but we got their attention. Take your shot, make it count. Kane leaned forward, eyes fixed on the dreadnought's trajectory. Its shields flickered under the Ironclad's relentless fire. Holt, vector our long-range batteries. Target their shield generators. Admiral, that puts us at maximum spread. Accuracy. Do it. The Resolute's cannons adjusted, focusing on the dreadnought. Across the line, other ships followed suit, channeling every ounce of fury into a single point. The volley hit like a storm. Layer after layer of Zer's shielding buckled, flaring in cascades of crimson light. Finally, the dreadnought's defenses collapsed. The ironclad's captain seized the moment, all power to forward guns. Fire! The shot pierced the dreadnought's heart. For a breathless instant, the massive ship seemed to resist. Then it split apart, detonating in a cataclysm of fire that painted the void in searing light. The Zerth fleet faltered, their formation breaking. On the Resolute, silence gripped the bridge as the wreckage drifted. Then Holt exhaled, disbelief in her voice. They did it! Kane didn't smile. His eyes lingered on the fading blips of the Vanguard and the Ironclad. They paid the price. Saran's throat tightened. We lost them. We gained a future, Kane said quietly. His voice carried the weight of both grief and resolve. Their names will not be forgotten. The surviving Zerth regrouped, but did not press further. Without their dreadnought, they hesitated, wary. The human line, scarred and battered, still stood. Reports streamed in. Casualties heavy, hulls shredded, but the transport were gone. Thero Prime was still free. For now, Holt studied Kane, her expression grim. They'll be back. Stronger. With more ships than we can ever match. Kane nodded. Then we prepare. We don't need to match them. We just need to show them what it costs. The crew listened. Exhaustion etched into their faces. But something else flickered there too. Not just survival. Pride. Because against all reason, against all odds, humanity had faced the first fire and endured. Smelled faintly of burnt ozone, carried in from the still-scarred corridors. Admiral Kane stood at the central table, eyes fixed on the glowing hollow map of the system. The red markers, Zerth vessels destroyed, outnumbered the green icons of his own ships, still operational. A tactical victory, yet one that felt hollow. They'll write songs of the Ironclad and the Vanguard, Captain Holt said quietly, standing beside him. She wasn't prone to sentiment, but her voice carried respect. They'll write graves first, Kane answered, his jaw set. We lost good crews. Across the table, Saran shifted uncomfortably, but the Thero lived. Thousands of civilians evacuated. That was the mission. Kane's gaze softened a fraction. Yes, and because of that, the Zerth will be forced to acknowledge we're not a prey species. Holt exhaled, arms crossed. We hurt them. Badly. That dreadnought should have been untouchable. Now the galaxy knows otherwise. The chamber doors hissed open. Thero envoy Marek entered, his ornate robe scorched at the edges from his people's near destruction. His feline features, sharp, dignified, crowned with silver mane, carried both exhaustion and gratitude. Admiral Kane, he said, bowing low, your people bled, so ours might survive. The Thero owe humanity a debt that cannot be measured. Kane inclined his head. We don't measure debts in numbers. We measure in lives. Yours are safe. That's enough. Marek's golden eyes burned. It may be enough for you. It is not enough for us. The Zerth will return in greater strength. Alone, neither of our species can withstand them. Together, perhaps. Holt studied him warily. You're suggesting an alliance. Marek's ears tilted forward. Not suggesting. Declaring. From this moment, the Thero stand with humanity. What resources we have, we share. Our fleets are few, but our resolve is boundless. Kane regarded him for a long beat, then nodded. Then we stand as one. Hours later, Kane walked the scarred corridors of the Resolute. Crew members passed, saluting with tired hands. Their faces told the truth. Pride mixed with fatigue, victory dulled by loss. At the med bay, he paused. Inside, wounded sailors lay in neat rows, machines hissing softly as they repaired torn flesh. Rourke's surviving officer, Lieutenant Varen, struggled to sit up as Kane entered. Sir, Varen rasped, voice weak but steady. You should be resting, Kane said. Rest can wait. Did we hold? Kane placed a hand on his shoulder. We held. because of the Vanguard and the Ironclad. You gave us the time we needed. Tears welled at the corners of Varen's eyes, though his expression was defiant. Then we'd do it again. Later, in his quarters, Kane reviewed intercepted transmissions. The Zerth weren't silent. They raged. Their warlords demanded vengeance for the destroyed dreadnought, their rhetoric full of fire and conquest. Yet behind the fury was hesitation. Humanity had shown teeth sharper than expected. Holt entered, carrying a fresh report. Long-range scouts confirmed the Zerth have pulled back to their forward bastion. They're regrouping. They'll come harder next time, Kane murmured. Then so will we. Holt leaned against the table. Word of what happened here is spreading. Other species are watching. Some are frightened, others curious. No one thought humans would stand against the Zerth. Kane raised an eyebrow. And now they're wondering if they should stand with us, or hide before the Zerth turn on them. Kane allowed himself a thin smile. Fear is a beginning, but respect, that's what will change the galaxy. On Thero Prime, the aftermath unfolded. Towers once glowing with art and life now bore scorch marks from orbital fire. Families wept in streets where shadows of destruction lingered. Yet amidst the grief, hope bloomed. Humans were not conquerors nor plunderers. They were saviors. Kane stood with Marek on a balcony overlooking the battered city. Your people rebuild quickly, Kane observed. Marek's tail flicked. We rebuild because we must. But it is not buildings that matter. It is belief. Our citizens see your ships in the sky and know they live because of you. He turned, gaze piercing. The Zerth thought fear was their greatest weapon. Humanity has shown there is something stronger, solidarity. Kane nodded slowly. They'll test that, again and again. Then let them, Marek said, voice firm. Every strike against us will forge something greater. Night on Thero Prime was quiet. Stars gleaming cold above. Kane found himself outside the temporary command post, alone. His mind replayed every decision. The sacrifice of Rourke, the desperate gamble of the Ironclad. The victory weighed heavy, not triumphant, but sobering. Footsteps approached. Holt joined him, hands clasped behind her back. For a while they said nothing, simply watching the alien sky. Finally Holt broke the silence. You know this isn't over. I know, Kane said, but we bought time. That's worth something. Time isn't enough, she countered. If the Zerth return with their full might, no alliance, no courage, no sacrifice will stop them. Not unless we think bigger. Kane glanced at her. Bigger? She met his gaze evenly. Not just defense. Deterrence. They strike because they believe they can. We have to make them believe otherwise. Kane considered her words. Then looked back at the stars. Then that's what we'll do. The next morning, the human fleet prepared to move. Damaged ships limped into formation, their hulls scorched with their banners unbroken. The Thero mustered what vessels they could, aligning alongside. The comms crackled as Kane's voice carried across both fleets. We are not the strongest. We are not the most numerous. But yesterday, the Zerth learned we are not prey. They will come again, expecting to break us. Instead, they will find us waiting. Every world they threaten will see us at its side. Every life they try to extinguish will ignite our resolve. And when the galaxy speaks of this war, it will not be the tale of the Zerth's conquest, but of how humanity stood and the stars themselves trembled. The channel erupted with cheers, human and Thero voices blending in fierce unity. For the first time, Kane felt it, not just survival, not just duty, but a rising tide. The spark of something larger than war. The beginning of defiance written into the bones of the galaxy. The Zerth Armada emerged like a storm on the edge of Thero space. Their fleet stretched across the void, sleek black hulls. Spines glowed with energy, a wall of destruction that blotted out the stars. At its center, a dreadnought 3 times larger than the one destroyed in orbit of Marek's world. Its sheer mass radiated inevitability. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Kane studied the tactical display. His fleet, bolstered by Thero's ships, formed a compact wedge. Outnumbered, outgunned, but not unprepared. Every ship was scarred from the last battle, but rebuilt with grim precision. Zerth forces outnumber us 3-1, Holt reported. Her tone was steady, but her eyes held steel. Kane nodded. Then we'll make every shot count. Saran, the young strategist, adjusted the display. Their dreadnought is the key. Break that, and their command will fracture. They're arrogant, but their hierarchy collapses if the apex falls. Marek's voice crackled over the comm from his flagship. We stand with you, Admiral, whatever comes. Kane's lips thinned. Then let's show them what defiance looks like. The void flared as the first salvos screamed across the gulf. Zerth beams cut through the dark like jagged spears of lightning, striking the Thero vanguard. Shields shuddered but held. Human cruisers fired in reply, their railguns launching tungsten slugs at relativistic speed. The shots slammed into enemy hulls, ripping through armor in showers of molten shards. The fleets collided in a storm of fire. The Resolute shivered under impact, alarms wailing as hull plating scorched. Holt barked orders, her voice cutting through the chaos. Shift power to forward batteries. Keep that dreadnought in our sights. On the enemy bridge, the Zerth warlord Vral stood surrounded by his council predators. His crest flared with fury as human projectiles scarred his mighty vessel. They dare resist us again, he snarled. A subordinate bowed low. They fight like cornered beasts, Lord. Then break them. No prey survives twice. Back aboard the Resolute, Saran spotted the opening. Their left flank is overextended. If we drive hard, we can cut through and isolate their heavy carriers. Kane gave a single nod. Execute. Human destroyers surged forward, weaving through enemy fire with reckless precision. They unleashed volleys of missiles that tore into the Zerth formation, igniting fuel reserves in brilliant fireballs. The Thero followed, their ships smaller but agile, striking like knives between armor plates. Marek's flagship cleaved through a cruiser, its beam weapons cutting the Zerth vessel in half. Push. Holt roared. Don't give them time to regroup. Still, the dreadnought loomed. Its colossal guns tracked the battlefield, unleashing torrents of plasma that swallowed ships whole. A Thero frigate vanished in a single blast, leaving only burning wreckage. The fleet reeled. Admiral, if that thing focuses on us, Holt began. It will. Kane cut her off. His voice was calm, deliberate. That's why we're going to kill it first. The plan unfolded in layers. The Resolute and its escort advanced straight into the dreadnought's fire, shields buckling under the onslaught. Behind them, a hidden wing of stealth frigates, modified in haste after the first battle, slipped through the chaos. Cloaked in silence, they darted toward the enemy's aft sections. Frigate squadron in position, Saran reported, sweat beading his brow. Ready on your mark. Kane stared at the dreadnought, its vast form filling the main screen. The beast thought itself untouchable. Mark. The frigates decloaked and unleashed their payload. Dozens of torpedoes streaked forward, slamming into the dreadnought's engines. Explosions rippled across its rear hull, sending shock waves through the massive vessel. Direct hits. Saran shouted. On the enemy bridge, Vral staggered as his ship lurched. Find them, kill them all. But the damage was done. The dreadnought slowed, its maneuvering crippled. This is it, Kane said, his voice low. All power to forward guns. Target their command bridge. The Resolute shook as every weapon fired at once. Rail slugs, plasma lances, and missile swarms hammered the dreadnought. Thero's ships poured in fire from the flanks, carving glowing scars across its armored skin. The enemy Titan fought back, its plasma cannons raking the Resolute. Consoles burst in showers of sparks. Crew members flung to the deck, shields at 12%. Holt called, gripping the railing. Hold steady, Kane commanded. His eyes never left the dreadnought. The final blow came from Marek's flagship. With shields failing and weapons overcharged, the Thero ship plunged directly into the dreadnought's side. A beam cannon fired point blank, burning through layer after layer of armor until it struck the reactor core. The dreadnought convulsed. Light flared from its wounds, building to a blinding crescendo. And then silence. The giant split apart in a cataclysmic detonation, shock waves tearing through nearby Zerth vessels. On the Resolute, the crew erupted in cheers. Holt slammed her fist against the console. That's how you slay a monster. But the battle wasn't over. Leaderless, the Zerth fleet wavered, some ships fleeing, others lashing out in desperation. Kane seized the moment, pressed the attack. Break them now, before they recover. Human and Daryl's ships surged forward, striking with renewed ferocity. Within hours, the Zerth fleet was shattered, remnants scattering into the void. Silence fell at last. Wreckage drifted across the battlefield. Burning hulks, frozen corpses, shattered metal. Amid the ruin, the human Thero fleet remained, bloodied but unbroken. On the bridge, Kane leaned heavily against the table. His uniform was scorched, his voice hoarse, but his eyes blazed. "They'll remember this," Holt said, almost in awe. Kane nodded. The Zerth thought fear ruled the galaxy. Today they learned otherwise. Days later, in the Council of Allied Worlds, word spread like wildfire. Humanity had stood against the galaxy's terror and triumphed. The Thero had bound themselves to the humans not in desperation, but in choice. Other species whispered, some with fear, others with admiration. Admiral Kane addressed the Council through interstellar transmission. His words were measured, deliberate. "We are not conquerors. We do not seek dominion. But know this. If any power seeks to prey upon the innocent, humanity will rise. We will stand beside those who cannot stand alone. And if the Zerth return, they will find not prey but fire." His speech echoed across systems, carried into homes, outposts, and palaces. Humanity had claimed its place not by empire, but by sacrifice. That night, Kane sat alone in his quarters aboard the Resolute. Outside, stars burned cold and distant, yet closer than ever. The war was not over. The Zerth still lived, but they were no longer untouchable. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had written itself into its story with fire and blood. Kane closed his eyes, hearing again the voices of the fallen. They had given everything. It was his duty to make sure it was not in vain. He whispered to the void, "Let them come."